Hey y'all, we are going to look at some more accessory glands of the digestive system. They are exocrine glands, meaning they're secreting stuff into ducts that get released into the tracts, into the lumen of the digestive tract. This is at 40x, we are looking at the pancreas. Looks a lot like the salivary gland too, because there are acini here. Most of the pancreas is exocrine gland. It is also an endocrine gland, and we've seen this before. Going to 100x, we see those tight clusters. Those are the acini made of simple cuboidal cells clustered together. But then occasionally we'll see an island or an islet of cells where we have endocrine cells. So these are completely different in this islet here. Where's another islet? Here's another islet. Islet of Langerhans, pancreatic islet, one of those, whatever you want to call it. But most everything else is exocrine, secreting digestive enzymes and buffers to help neutralize the acid that your stomach secretes into the duodenum. We can see a nice duct here. Here is a duct, looks like simple cuboidal as well, arranged in a nice large circle. And then these tight, smaller ones that stain darker, those are the acini. The acinar cells arranged in circles, and those are secreting pancreatic juices, enzymes, and buffer. That gets secreted through a pancreatic duct into the duodenum to help neutralize the acid of the chyme coming from the stomach and start digesting even more the partially digested food coming from the stomach. These are the acini. And again, distinguishing that from an islet, here is an islet. Over here, from this lighter colored circle, that's a pancreatic islet. That's endocrine. Most everything else is exocrine, part of the digestive system. Here, we are looking at another organ. This is the liver. Looks like just one big mass of stuff with holes in it, and kind of is. But let's look more closely so we can decipher what's going on. Let's zoom in on one of these holes. Let's go over here. Now to 100x. Every single circle you see, that's a central vein. So that's draining blood out of the liver to the hepatic vein, to the inferior vena cava. So there's a central vein, there's a central vein. Those big circles are the centers of lobules. Let's find, oh, here's a great example. So the center here, where the arrow is, that is the center of a lobule. A lobule is, the liver is made up of these hexagonal shaped lobules with a bunch of cells. The cells that you see are hepatocytes. And hepatocytes do a lot of different things. They take blood from the digestive, what was absorbed from the digestive tract, and absorb nutrients, store it for later, filter it for toxins and detoxify things. And we also release a bunch of things into the blood, whether it's nutrients or proteins for clotting or other important proteins for our blood. So the liver does a lot of different things. These hepatocytes also produce bile, and we'll get to that in a second. But at the center here of a lobule, that is, that's a central vein. Here's another center. I know that this doesn't really look like a hexagon, so let me try to trace it out for you. So this is the center of the hexagon. If we go down a little bit, and right here, this is a corner. I'm calling this a corner because I see wider circles here. Not as big as the central vein, but here. That is one of the corners. Here's another corner. Here's another corner. Another corner. Where did I start? At another corner. Not a perfect hexagon. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably missing one. But they form these hexagonal shapes. Let's see if I can trace one more. This one looks pretty good. Here's the center, central vein. There's one corner, two. Third one should be over here. Maybe, yeah, here. 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're forming these hexagonal lobules. If you see other slides, I think sometimes they show it a little better, but it's a little more distinct. But you'll have to trust me, these are lobules, and they're all just smushed together. Once again, the center is the central vein. All these are hepatocytes arranged around it like spokes on a wheel. And then at each corner, let me find a good corner. Okay, so here's a good corner. Wait, no, sorry. I'm trying to find one that's just right, cut at the right angle. Okay. Central vein, let's go to this corner here. It's very distinct. That was 100x. Now we're at 400x. We can see there's actually several vessels here. There's one vessel here. Here's another. Whoops. Here's another. Here's another. There are 3 major vessels here. There's actually supposed to be 5, but there's 3. This region, this corner of a hexagon, the corner of a lobule, is called a portal triad. A portal triad. The one with the thicker epithelium, that's a bile duct. The rest are blood vessels. There is a hepatic artery, and then a hepatic portal vein. That makes up the triad. Hepatic artery brings blood in. The pathway would be aorta to celiac trunk to hepatic artery into the liver. And then the hepatic portal vein, where did that come from? Let's trace it, say, from the superior mesenteric artery to the fenestrated capillaries of the intestines, and then now to a branch of the hepatic portal vein. So at this portal triad, you can find a branch of the hepatic portal vein, you can find a branch of the hepatic artery, as well as a bile duct. That's what you find at every corner. So this is bringing fluids, the blood vessels are bringing blood in, and then the bile duct will be draining bile out. Let me find the center of one of the lobules. It's a blood vessel. Here is, oh yeah, that is a blood vessel. Here's the central vein. So blood flows from those corners, let me find the corner again, from those corners through in between the cells, those are sinusoid capillaries, to the hepatic vein. So both the hepatic artery and hepatic portal vein branch to the sinusoid capillaries of the liver, and then the sinusoid capillaries drain to the central vein. Bile will flow in the opposite direction through different vessels. So these hepatocytes will produce bile and drain bile this way to the bile ducts. From the bile ducts, we then store bile in the gallbladder. And the gallbladder also has simple columnar like a lot of the digestive tract. Here we go. Here's the lumen. We store the bile in the lumen of the gallbladder. There's you can see the texture of the gallbladder here. It needs to be able to expand to store bile. And you can see the muscular layer because it also has to squeeze the bile out. And then the gallbladder releases the bile into through the bile duct, through the sphincter of Oddi, the sphincter of Apula, which is the same, it's shared with the pancreatic duct. So from the bile duct through the sphincter into the duodenum. So bile, pancreatic juices, and chyme all enter into the duodenum. the bile duct and the pancreatic duct meet at the sphincter of ampulla, or the sphincter vati, and that regulates the release of bile and pancreatic juices into the duodenum. All right, that is it for the liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. Thanks for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions.